The faded neon sign flickered above the door, buzzing softly like it was tired of holding on. Inside, the smell of coffee and warm bread filled the small space, though the booths were mostly empty. Bills sat stacked behind the counter, unopened, their red stamps screaming louder than any sound in the room. Samuel Hart stood quietly wiping the counter, the same counter he'd polished every night for the past 23 years. The diner had been his entire life. After his wife passed and his kids moved away, the diner became more than a business. It became his reason to wake up every morning. But kindness doesn't pay rent, and generosity doesn't stop interest from piling up. Everyone in town knew it. Some mocked him openly. "Maybe if you stopped feeding people for free, you wouldn't be broke," a neighbor once said with a laugh. Samuel never answered. That night, rain tapped softly against the windows as Samuel counted the drawer. There wasn't enough to cover tomorrow's utilities, let alone the overdue notice taped to the back door. If nothing changed, the diner would be seized in days. Just as he was about to turn off the lights, the bell above the door rang. A man stepped inside, soaked from the rain. His jacket was thin, his shoes worn, his hands trembling not from the cold alone, but from exhaustion. His eyes moved nervously around the room, as if he expected to be told to leave. Samuel smiled gently. "Sit wherever you like." The man hesitated. "I don't have any money." Samuel picked up a menu, already knowing the choice he'd make. "Tonight's special is on the house." The man's eyes filled instantly. He sat quietly, shoulders slumped, as Samuel prepared the last plate of food in the kitchen: eggs, toast, and soup made from whatever was left. It was the final meal Samuel had ingredients for. When he placed the plate down, the man whispered, "You shouldn't do this." Samuel shrugged. "Hunger doesn't wait for better timing." The man ate slowly, carefully, like someone afraid the moment might disappear. When he finished, he stood and reached into his pocket, pulling out a crumpled napkin. "I don't have money," he said, "but someday I'll remember this." Samuel smiled. "That's enough." The man nodded once and left quietly into the rain. The next morning, 2 city officers stood outside the diner. Neighbors gathered across the street, whispering. Everyone knew what this meant. Samuel unlocked the door anyway. He had nothing left to lose. Just as the officer stepped forward, a low rumble echoed down the street. Black SUVs pulled up slowly, their polished surfaces reflecting the diner's broken sign. People fell silent. A man stepped out, wearing a tailored suit. It was the same man from the night before. Clean, confident, calm. The officers froze. The man walked straight toward Samuel and extended his hand. "Good morning," he said. "My name is Daniel Reyes." Samuel stared, confused. Daniel turned to the officers. "This property will not be seized," one of them stammered. "Sir, the paperwork." Daniel smiled politely. "Has been handled." He then turned back to Samuel. "Last night, you fed me when you had nothing left. Most people looked past me." "You didn't." Daniel explained quietly that he was an investor who had been traveling anonymously, studying businesses not for profit alone but for character. He wanted to see who people were when no one was watching. "And you," Daniel said, "are exactly the kind of person the world forgets to protect." He paid every debt on the diner. Not as a purchase but as a partnership. Samuel's hands shook as he listened. Over the next months, the diner changed, but not its heart. Prices stayed fair. Free meals still appeared when they were needed. Locals who once mocked Samuel now filled the booths. And every morning, Samuel placed a small sign near the register. Kindness is never wasted, because sometimes the plate you give away becomes the reason everything is saved.